Look how cool this mug is. It's literally got a hockey puck on the bottom. It's like the most Canadian mug you'll ever see. What's up, everybody? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever it is that you're coming from, hello and welcome. I'm going to be real with you guys really quickly. This is not the video that I wanted to upload for Tuesday. So my videos for this week, I upload 2 a week. The one I wanted to do for today and the one I wanted to do for Friday have got all mixed up. The reason is because the video I wanted to do today was actually going to be my review for Black Leopard Red Wolf, but I have yet to actually finish this book. This is quite a hefty book. It's bigger than I thought, but hey, go with the flow. So I wasn't able to finish this book in time and do my review. So this video was the one I was going to upload in a few days, but instead I'm going to upload it today. So I'm going to go over a bunch of different series that I've never finished. It goes from young adult, like 12 and plus books, all the way to some epic fantasy. All these series that I started, whether or not I read the first book, both the first and the second, and I just never finished it. Some of them are trilogy, some of them are larger. So I'm going to go over all of those because what I plan on doing with each of these series is every month reading one and doing a reading vlog while I finish that whole series. So yeah, the first series that I have never finished is The Morpheus Road by D.J. McHale. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that his series Bobby Pendragon was a defining series when I was younger for my reading career. Read it, loved it. It's 10 books. It's behind me. I'll probably do a video about it in the future, but I love that series. After I finished it, I found out that he was releasing a new series called the Morpheus Road Trilogy, and the first book had just been released. So I bought it pretty much immediately, like the first day it was released. And that book is called The Light. Tore through this in like almost a day and absolutely loved everything about it. A year later, that's not the right one. A year later, The Black came out, and this is book 2. Tore through this one again, and then I knew that there was one more book coming and I couldn't wait for it. These 2 books are really cool. I mentioned it in my March TBR. They happen at the exact same time. They're simultaneous of each other. So the light is basically being alive. Like if you're alive, you're in the light. And the black is if you're dead, you go to the black. It's not hell, but it is like the purgatory. It's the place you go in between life and death. It happens at the exact same time. It's 2 people that know each other and how one is in the light and one is in the black. And then The Blood came out obviously a year after I finished reading The Black, and for some reason I bought it like the first day it came out, but I never read it. I think what was happening was I was in the middle of a book already, and when I finished it, whatever book that was, I was in the mood for that particular genre. It could have been like I just finished Lord of the Rings and was like, I need more epic high fantasy, and I just never ended up getting to this. I've owned this book for years, absolute years, and I was so excited when I finished The Black because I knew that The Blood is hell, or it's some sort of demonic realm. So I was very excited for it. Never finished it. Never even started this one. So this is going to be what my March reading vlog is. Me finishing reading the Morpheus Road trilogy. And when I say finish reading, I mean starting back at book 1 and going all the way through until the end. Like this baby. The second series that I never finished is the Dragonlance Chronicles by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. So these are really cool. They're actually set in the Dungeons and Dragons realm. So Dungeons and Dragons, when all of that was starting out, they were like, we want books set in this realm so we can sort of tell stories about the world that everything takes place in. So there's a bunch of books that are like it. You can argue that Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman really paved the way for the D&D books. But this is a trilogy that I've owned for a very long time. It was actually recommended to me for my stepdad. I read the first one and I almost finished the second one. You can, like, literally my Adventure Time bookmark is still in it. And I was reading this about a year ago. So I know where I left off. So this book, I don't know why I never finished it. It has everything that I love in epic fantasy. It's very Tolkien, very Lord of the Rings-esque, where it has the Fellowship, a group of warriors and heroes that go off on a quest to stop this like dark lord and the end of the world, them just traveling, all this cool stuff that happens to them. There's elves, there's dwarves, there's monsters, there's these draconians, which are like, instead of orcs and like trolls and stuff, they are like humanoid dragons, which is really cool. Plus, like, it's D&D, and who doesn't like D&D, right? So I'm gonna read it. The next series that I've started and never finished is one that I'm very disappointed in myself that I never actually completed it. It is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard by Rick Riordan. Rick Riordan is the one who wrote Percy Jackson, which were some of my favorite books as a child, and where Percy Jackson really focuses on Greek mythology and Roman mythology. Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard obviously is Norse mythology. So like Vikings and Thor and all that kind of stuff, you know, Loki, Chris Hemsworth, ooh, all of that. I read it when it was first released, and I never really paid attention to when the second book was coming out. I couldn't even tell you how many books are in this series. I did really enjoy this one. It wasn't for me as good as Percy Jackson, but I don't think anything that Rick Riordan could write will live up to Percy Jackson for me. I loved everything about it. But it had characters from Percy Jackson, so it's in the same universe. It just focuses on Norse mythology as opposed to Roman or Greek. So I know that I'm eventually going to finish it. I got to find out how many books are in it, what they're called, and I got to buy them too. Like, this is the only one of the series that I own. I have read it. I couldn't tell you anything really about it. I can't remember. I read it so long ago. I don't know when this was released. I think it was before I even moved to Toronto, which was years. But yeah, this is going to be one that I eventually pick back up, probably in a few months, and I'll be doing a reading vlog about Magnus and me and our adventures together. This next series is one that I read while I was working at a bookstore, and the only reason I really read it is because it was the hype. It was the #1 bestseller, I think, in this genre and for this demographic, and that's Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. When this first came out, I had lineups at the cash of people buying this book, and I knew nothing about it. So I picked it up and I read it because I wanted to be able to talk to those who came in and were like, hey, so I've heard about this Red Queen book. Is it good? I read it again, like most of the other series in this video. I read this book when it was first released, so there wasn't even a release date or a title or anything for the second book. And I actually did enjoy it. I'm not a huge fan of this genre where it's like dystopian, YA fantasy. I find it very overdone. Like, the Hunger Games, that kind of stuff. I just find that it's a very overdone genre. And for me, it's like I've read one, I've read them all. So I read this one. I actually did enjoy it. I thought it was really good. I thought Victoria Aveyard really kind of added her own spin to that genre. For some reason, at the end of it, I wasn't like, wow, I cannot wait until book 2. And if I wasn't like it then, a year later when it was finally released, I wasn't like it at that point either. Now, I'm really curious to know how many of you that are watching this video actually know about this author or this series of the next one that I haven't finished. Mark Lawrence and the Broken Empire, King of Thorns, or sorry, it's Prince of Thorns. Here, King of Thorns, and then Emperor of Thorns. So this is a trilogy. Now, I read these books, I think when I started reading them, book 1 and book 2 were released. And this book, they were fantastic as epic fantasy, but I think at the point of me reading them, I don't think I was ready for something like it. So I've only ever read the first book before, and the premise of the series is Jorg Ankarth, I think his name is, Jorg Ankrath. So he is somebody who was supposed to be murdered, and he's the prince of this kingdom. He wasn't murdered, and he ended up joining, or like starting this gang of criminals. And they were not good. They were not a good gang. So it starts off, the series, it begins with Prince of Thorns, and he's only 13 years old. And I remember in the opening pages, what happened is him and his like buddies, his bad ass group of friends that he, rolls with, they were doing these like unforgivable things to the villagers. Like they were murdering, sacking, all this crazy stuff. And he was only 13. I don't even want to say it. Like it's so hard to wrap my head around for a 13-year-old doing it. So I think when I was reading the series, I don't think I was just ready to jump into the mind of a character as broken as Jorg. I finished all of Prince of Thorns, and the way that Mark Lawrence writes is unmatched. No one else can write like him. It's full of one-liners. It's very, it's not punny, but it's just full of like little one-punch jabs of dialogue, of just content in general. And the story that he's weaved together with Jorg and his group is really, really cool. Yeah, right here. A band of bloodthirsty thugs led by a 13-year-old named Jorg, who watched as his mother and brother were killed before him. So, I mean, it's very hard to not feel for him. And what was really cool about it is that although it is a trilogy, there are other books, some of them I have right here, by Mark Lawrence set in the exact same world as this one. So I always look at it, and I absolutely love the covers. They're the reason I bought it in the first place. Every time I walk by my bookshelf and I see it, I'm always like, damn it, Cameron, why can't you just finish that series? You love the first book, even though it was hefty and pretty intense. But I am actually really looking forward to finally finishing the series and doing a reading vlog about it, because I not only do I want to finish this one, but I really want to jump into the other series that Mark Lawrence has done set in the same world as the Broken Empire. So yeah, Prince of Thorns, Mark Lawrence, crazy, psychotic 13-year-old murderer. It's going to be a good read. Now, this next series is one that I couldn't tell you when I bought them, I couldn't tell you when I read them, and I couldn't even tell you the main character's name. I read it literally years ago. I don't think anyone knows about it. It is by Scott Westerfeld, if anyone knows who he is, and it is the Leviathan, Behemoth, Goliath trilogy. I don't even know if it actually is a trilogy. These are the only ones that I've ever heard of. I don't know if he maybe wrote other books in the same universe or wrote a fourth, like a secret fourth book I just don't know about. These books are actually really cool. From what I remember, it is a reimagining of history, and I think it really focuses on, I don't remember if it's World War I or World War II, but it's like a steampunk universe that just reimagines history from those times. I couldn't tell you which war it is, but I do know that it's either World War I or World War II. So it's really cool. From what I remember, it follows, think of it like a tank crew, but instead of it being a tank, they're in like this giant robot thing. And it's basically just them, you know, surviving and going through this war. I don't know what else happens. I couldn't tell you anything about the characters. I don't even know if it focuses on more than one. But I do know that when I read Leviathan, I was really impressed with it because it was stuff that I was familiar with because I was going through history class in school, right? So I kind of understood a little bit about what was going on. But he took like a really cool spin to it. You know, you can really tell that Scott Westerfeld just sort of breathed his own take, and what he thinks of or his own like imagination really just comes to life in this series. And I've owned the books for years. I bought them just because I wanted to complete the series on my shelf. And every time I look by, similar to other series that I talk about in this video, whenever I look by them, I'm like, one, they feel good. Like they're a heavy, like bright page. It's very white. You know, it's very like nice book to hold and like look at. Plus, the story from what I remember was really intriguing. So I'm eventually gonna read these ones again. I'm gonna do I'll do a reading vlog, and I'm excited. Yeah, like Austro-Hungarian Empire, British Darwinists, like it's very, very cool. But that is another one. That is another one that I have yet to read. Now, the second last series that I'm going to talk about in this video is epic fantasy, and it is The Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings. I'm not sure how many books are in this series. Oh, it's not even called Pawn of Prophecy. That's just the first book. It's literally the Belgariad. So the reason I actually read this one, it's the only one of the series that I own. I do have the whole series set up in collections, but I kind of just like reading the individuals a little bit better. They're so small and just, they almost feel like a quick read, not even 250 pages. But the reason I read it is because old coworkers of mine from when I was working in the bookstore, they read this every single year come November. It is an annual read for them and they love it. They told me such great things about it. When I read the first one, I was blown away with how great of an epic fantasy like Memento, I guess it was. It's like just similar to the other series I was talking about earlier, Dragonlance. It is very Tolkien. It's very young, like farmer villager has to go on a quest with like a wizard and a group of warriors and stop this dark lord from returning and ruining everything, right? But the characters in this and their wit and their dialogue and their interactions with each other really, 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 really guided the story for me. Not only was the world cool, the magic system was kind of just like it was a very mainstream magic system. It was like, fireballs, that kind of stuff. So even that didn't have anything really going for me. The world is really cool, but it's the characters. The characters are just so fantastic, and I'm really upset with myself that I never continued reading it because I just want to read more about Silk, one of the characters in the book named Silk. And that brings me to the final series that I've started and never finished, and that is the Air Chronicles by Cinda Williams Kaima. Now, I'm ending the video with this one because I genuinely think that this is the series I'm most excited to pick back up again. I got this series back when my parents were getting me books for Christmas instead of gift cards. So I ended up opening up a little box and it had the Warrior Air. This is for my mom. And actually, no, wait, she got me the first 3 books. So at the point, there was the Warrior Air, there was the Wizard's Air, and there was the Dragon Air. And I got all 3 of them for Christmas. And I remember I tore through the Warrior Air and I was blown away with how cool it was. And I read the Sorcerer Air as well, and then I got halfway through Dragon Air. And I don't know what it was about it. Oh my god, it's not even called the Sorcerer Air. It's literally called the Wizard's Air. This is how long it's been. I can't even remember what the books were called. But I did read number 1, number 2, and I started number 3 and never finished it. Now, suddenly, I don't even know how many there are. There's now the Sorcerer Air and the Enchanter Air. So I don't know if there's a 6th book. I don't even know which one of these is number 4 or number 5. But this is a series that when I read it, I was blown away with how cool it was. I think I mentioned it in a video before. I have a really hard time finishing series. So that's why I think that these reading vlogs are going to be really hard to do, but I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But anyways, I couldn't even tell you what this was about. From what I remember, the Warrior Heir was about how there's two houses, like secret societies in the world. Like it takes place, it's not a fantasy world or anything from what I remember, but there's two houses and each of them nominate a champion every year to like fight. And whoever wins is like the champion of that house, and that house is like supreme over the other one for the year or something like that. And the main characters are the champions. They know each other. I'm pretty sure they're like dating or something. But it was really, really cool. Do not quote me on anything that I just said, and not even just about this series, but any series that I've been talking about. I read a lot of these years ago, and I can barely remember what they're about. I'm pretty sure the only thing I remember about the Warrior Heir, like exactly, is that the main character name is Jack. Yeah, Jack. That's all I got. And that brings me to the end of this video. So like I briefly mentioned before, what I'm actually going to be doing is every month finishing one of these series, and I'm going to release a reading vlog of me doing that. So for this month, it's going to be the Morpheus Road Trilogy. Next month, probably the Heir Chronicles. And then every month is going to be a new one. So I had 8 series, I believe I talked about in this video. So that is one video every month for the next 8 months that is going to be a reading vlog based on the series that I'm finishing. So like I said, I wasn't going to do a video like this, and I also wish that this one was my upload later on this week. I was really hoping to get the book review out for Black Leopard Red Wolf. But anyways, yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, comments. The support I'm getting so far is absolutely fantastic. I'm being shouted on Twitter. I love the booktube community so much. And doing this has made me fall in love with them even more, and all my friends and family that have supported. Again, this is just a hobby. I actually look forward to filming these videos and editing them and planning them. And I've already found that it's made me read a lot more than I was before. Before I had like a hard time reading because it sounds horrible, but it was almost like I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything. But now when I'm reading, I'm like, you know what? You're reading because you have a booktube channel and you want to upload. So it brings a whole new level to what I already love doing, and it's just kind of inspiring and really driving me to do it even more. So any support that you can show, even telling me my hair looks good, that always feels good, is amazing. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you're reading. If you have any like cool ideas for a video that you want me to do, let me know that as well. I do always link my Twitter and my Instagram below. I'm going to start using Twitter a lot more. I never really used it before. I've had it for a while, but I always just look at stuff, and I'm going to start tweeting and interacting with everybody. But guess what? Don't have an outro. Not even going to make one up right now. So I will say goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on Friday with my book review. Until then, take it easy and keep reading.